The president's longest-serving political advisor, this man right here, Roger Stone, is set to be sentenced tomorrow after being found guilty of obstruction, lying to Congress, and witness tampering. It was the Justice Department's interference in his case last week when they revised the recommended 7 to 9 year sentence that the career prosecutors had put in to the judge that caused those 4 career prosecutors to resign from the case, one from the Department of Justice entirely. Trump has not kept his feelings about the case quiet at all, tweeting that he has the, quote, legal right to intervene in criminal cases and going as far as giving himself another new title.
I'm allowed to be totally involved. I'm actually, I guess, the chief law enforcement officer of the country.
Are you planning to pardon Roger Stone?
I haven't given it any thought. In the meantime, he's going through a process, but I think he's been treated very unfairly.
Joining our conversation in the nick of time, former assistant director for counterintelligence at the FBI, Frank Figliuzzi. Frank Figliuzzi, I think I read in 2017 that one of Donald Trump's legal strategies was to have his lawyer at the time, like 6 lawyers before Rudy, John Dowd, dangle pardons in front of Paul Manafort and Mike Flynn. I mean, Trump has been thinking about pardons literally since the day he got there. Do you believe for a minute that he's not ready to go with a pardon for Roger Stone?
Oh, look, Nicole, we are all being groomed right now for those pardons and or commutations. That's what's happening here. We are the proverbial frog in that simmering pot of water, and the water is now starting to boil, and we cannot succumb to that. We've got to understand this is not normal. And you know what else is not normal? This notion of Trump saying he's the chief law enforcement officer of the country. This goes back to like December of 2017. If you recall, Attorney General Jeff Sessions at the time introduced Trump to a large crowd at an FBI Academy graduation, and he introduced him as the chief law enforcement officer of the nation. I immediately got tweets from FBI officials in the back of that room who said, hey, Sessions just screwed up. He called Trump the chief law enforcement officer. Well, it's not a screw up. It's a deliberate strategy. And let me tell your viewers what they already know. It's not, chief law enforcement officer is not among the enumerated powers and roles of the president of the United States. We can't become numb to that either. This is a deliberate strategy to put himself in charge of law enforcement.
Well, let me pull the string forward. I mean, Attorney General Barr or 3 people close to him somehow let it get out to the Washington Post that he was thinking about resigning. He's had enough. I'm not sure if he is or isn't, or if he just wants us to think that he's thinking about resigning or isn't. But if there is a pardon that further undermines justice as it was meted out by career investigators, career prosecutors, so much so, it is so tainted, so contaminated that 4 career prosecutors quit the case. Would a pardon necessitate a resignation from the Attorney General?
Nicole, I think we've already answered this question. It's rhetorical because these pardons that came out yesterday had to have been run through the Justice Department just to make sure something wasn't wildly inappropriate. And so, you know, Barr had his chance to say no to these pardons, and I think he's going to have his chance again, and I don't think he's going to do it. With regard to him thinking about resigning, I got a good piece of advice one time when I was moving up the career ranks in the FBI. One of my mentors came to me and said, Frank, if any agent ever walks into your office and says he's thinking about resigning, take his badge and wish him well. The point being, we're not in a role that you can simultaneously do while you're thinking about maybe resigning or retiring. You need to go. And Trump should do the same thing with Barr. If you're thinking about being the Attorney General and thinking about whether you should be in the role, you shouldn't be there. You need to go.
And Steve Schmidt, the problem for the Attorney General seems to be that no one believes the pushback because he's been so subservient to Trump. And so if these are genuine articulations of concern or pause that he has, no one's buying it.
We're watching the rule of law in this country under systematic assault when Donald Trump goes out and declares himself the chief law enforcement officer. It should send chills down the spine of every American who has any notion about what the country's about. The world's oldest constitutional republic. It is, frankly, terrifying. We're seeing a seizing of power by a president who is acquitted by the Senate and now unchecked. We've seen the collapse of the checks and balances. And this is the issue, not to change the subject, but on the debate stage tonight. On the debate stage tonight is that fundamental question.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. We're not going to have perfect candidates running for office. But all of those candidates on that Democratic debate stage, I believe, are fidelitous to our system. Right. And so when we think of Lady Justice blindfolded, the scales of justice in our imperfect world, in our imperfect system, it doesn't mean that the president of the United States gets to pardon his friends, pardon his cronies. And we will move, should he be reelected, I think, into an area where these very powerful institutions can be turned on his critics, his opponents, people who speak out against them. And that's antithetical to Americanism.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.